Molly Corbett and her father, Thomas Martins, are going back to prison. A judge in Davidson County sentenced both of them to between 4 and 6 years for the killing of Jason Corbett. But because they had already served more than 3 years behind bars, they would spend as little as 7 more months in custody before walking free again. 7 months. For a man who was struck in the head at least 12 times with a baseball bat and a concrete paving brick. This is how it all happened. Jason Corbett was born in Limerick, Ireland, in 1976. He grew up in a close-knit family alongside his twin brother Wayne and his sister Tracy. By every account, Jason was warm, grounded, sociable, and uncomplicated in the best possible way. He worked for a packaging company in Ireland and built a quiet, stable life for himself. Then he met Margaret Fitzpatrick, known to everyone as Mags. The people closest to them said it was obvious from the start. Jason changed around her. He became lighter, happier, more open. They married in 2003. Their son, Jack, was born the next year, and their daughter, Sarah, followed in 2006. For a while, life felt ordinary in the best sense of the word. Then everything collapsed. In November 2006, Mag suffered a severe asthma attack late at night. Jason rushed her toward University Hospital Limerick, but she died on the way there. Jason was suddenly a widower at 30 years old with a 2-year-old son and a newborn daughter. What he did afterward told people everything about who he was. He didn't disappear into grief. He didn't hand the children off to relatives. He raised them himself. He worked. He kept the household together. And every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, he visited Mags's grave. He brought flowers, cards, newspapers. He talked to her about the children and read her the news. Friends and family said he never stopped loving her. In 2008, Jason hired a young American woman named Molly Martins as a live-in au pair to help care for the children. Molly was 24 years old and from Knoxville, Tennessee. Over time, the relationship became romantic. By 2011, they were married and had moved to North Carolina, where Jason transferred within the same packaging company. The family settled into a large home in Davidson County, inside a quiet golf community. Jason had paid for it, using the proceeds from selling his home in Ireland along with most of his life savings. He left behind everything familiar to build a new life for his family. From the outside, the Corbetts looked comfortable and stable. But privately, cracks had started forming in the marriage. According to Jason's sister Tracy, he had become unhappy. He told her Molly had been behaving strangely, and he was seriously considering returning to Ireland with the children. Investigators later confirmed that Jason had been exploring a move back home in the weeks before his death. Then came August 1st, 2015. That evening, Molly's parents, Thomas and Shara Martins, arrived at the Corbett home for a visit. By nightfall, everyone had gone to bed. At around 3 a.m., Thomas Martins called 911. He told dispatchers there had been a fight between Jason and Molly. He said he intervened. Then he said something chilling. "I may have killed him." Paramedics arrived within minutes. What they found inside the master bedroom was horrific. Blood covered the walls. Blood covered the bathroom. Jason Corbett lay on the floor with catastrophic head injuries. When paramedics attempted to move him, pieces of his skull reportedly came away. He was pronounced dead at 39 years old. Molly was beside his body performing CPR when emergency crews arrived. But investigators immediately noticed something strange. Neither Molly nor Thomas had visible injuries. No bruises, no scratches, no marks consistent with the violent struggle they claimed had taken place. Thomas told police he had rushed upstairs after hearing commotion and found Jason choking Molly while threatening to kill her. He said he grabbed a baseball bat and struck Jason in self-defense. According to Thomas, Molly also hit Jason with a concrete paving brick, but investigators quickly began questioning the story. Crime scene analysis reportedly showed little evidence of a prolonged fight. Blood spatter patterns suggested Jason may have been struck while already down on the floor. And there was something else. Only hours after Jason's death, Molly Corbett spent thousands of dollars having the house professionally cleaned to remove the blood. Meanwhile, Jason's family flew from Ireland to North Carolina. When they arrived, they learned Molly intended to have Jason cremated before they could even see his body. Authorities intervened and stopped the cremation. The deeper investigators looked, the worse the case became. The medical examiner determined Jason had been struck in the head at least 12 times. His skull was so badly shattered that the exact number was impossible to determine. Then toxicology results introduced another disturbing detail. Jason had trazodone in his system, a strong sedative he had never been prescribed. 3 days before his death, Molly Corbett had obtained a prescription for the drug. That detail would later become one of the most debated parts of the case. Paramedics had also noticed Jason's body felt unusually cold by the time they arrived, raising questions about how long he had actually been dead before 911 was called. Even the dispatcher noticed something odd about Thomas Martins during the emergency call. Despite claiming he had just performed frantic CPR, he sounded calm and controlled, not panicked, not exhausted, calm. In January 2016, both Molly Corbett and Thomas Martins were charged with second-degree murder. For prosecutors, the motive was becoming clearer. Jason wanted to return to Ireland with his children. In his will, custody arrangements favored his sister Tracy and her husband David if something happened to him. If Jason left or died, Molly risked losing the children. There was also a $600,000 life insurance policy. At trial, the defense argued self-defense. Witnesses described Jason as controlling and volatile. Secret recordings of arguments between Jason and Molly were played for the jury. A domestic violence expert testified that Molly and Thomas feared for their lives. But prosecutors focused on the physical evidence, the repeated blows, the blood patterns, the sedative, the lack of injuries on Molly and Thomas, the cleanup, the attempted cremation. And then there was Thomas Martins himself. Before the killing, multiple witnesses claimed he openly disliked Jason. One former colleague testified that Thomas once said, "That son-in-law, I hate him." Thomas Martins was not an ordinary defendant. He had spent decades as an FBI agent and understood exactly how self-defense claims worked. Investigators believed his language after the killing reflected that knowledge. He repeatedly emphasized fear, imminent danger, and state of mind, legal concepts central to self-defense cases. In August 2017, the jury found both Molly Corbett and Thomas Martins guilty of second-degree murder. Each was sentenced to between 20 and 25 years in prison. But the story didn't end there. In 2020, the convictions were overturned on appeal after courts ruled that statements made by Jack and Sarah shortly after their father's death should have been allowed at trial. A retrial was planned. It never happened. In October 2023, both defendants accepted plea deals. Thomas Martins pleaded guilty to voluntary manslaughter. Molly Corbett entered a no-contest plea to the same charge. The murder charges were dismissed. Because of time already served, they face as little as 7 additional months in prison. By 2024, both had been released. Jason's children were ultimately raised in Ireland by Tracy Corbett Lynch and her husband David after a judge rejected Molly's custody claims. Years later, both children publicly stated they believed they had been manipulated after their father's death. In a victim impact statement, Sarah described years of therapy and the pain of watching her childhood words used in court to defend the people responsible for killing her father. Today, Jason Corbett is buried beside Maggs in Limerick, the city where their story began. Friends and family say he was a devoted father who sacrificed everything for his children and built an entirely new life for them far from home. And despite everything that happened afterward, that is still how they remember him,